Today's gonna be peaceful. No drama, no explosions, just me and my coffee. And there goes my day. Close enough, potassium might work.
Lunch later.
Gonna take more than that, furball. I've got time. This is my boomstick. Handmade. Fires anything from bullets to bagels. Looks like you've got a buzz going.
Target acquired. Extremely dangerous. Fluffy but dangerous.
Tastes like fear.
Wow. That's tangy. That was supposed to be dramatic. You sure you know how to use those toys, furball? No one can resist the banana. Looking for this? Nice dive, Sasquatch. One shot, that's all it takes. Achoo! Bless you, hairball. Rude. Tactical retreat. Cancel it. No pineapples. This is war, not a luau. Stop laughing, you spaghetti-looking freak. Say hello to my furry little friend. Abort mission. Nature is angry. I did not sign up for homing missiles. Boo! Gravity hates me.
Goodbye, Slimy.
Nice boat, Jacques Cousteau.
I hate rivers.
All right, Venom, time for some spicy sausage justice.
My churros. Who fires a bomb?
That was a warning shot.
Really?
Prepare to meet your fruity doom.
Needs salt. I fight better with snacks.
I got this. Exactly as planned. Let's make this fight poppin'. Well, looks like the credits are rolling.
You ever wake up in the morning and instantly regret being alive? And I'm not talking about deep, existential dread or some heavy, poetic despair. Nah, it's that exact moment your eyelids crack open and you think, oh, great, still me. Still Bigfoot. Being Bigfoot has its perks, don't get me wrong. Free rent in a cave, rent a drafty as all hell, unlimited hiking trails, and absolutely zero HOA fees. No one banging on my about noise complaints or overgrown hedges, mostly because I don't own a door or hedges. But the downsides. Oh, buddy, where to start? For one, time to walk into a grocery store without some kid pretending to check their phone while blatantly filming me for TikTok. Within hours, I'm trending under hashtags like Forest Freak, Fay Harry Scare, and the ever-popular FAMAS Daddy. It's like I'm some kind of furry celebrity nobody asked for. Every summer, my fur turns into a walk-in flea motel, those little suckers party hard, and I swear I can hear their tiny rave music. Every winter, the fur holds moisture, which means I freeze like a walking ice sculpture. Not exactly the warm and fuzzy image I want to project. And the frying pan. My one good frying pan. Still dented from when I tried to swat a raccoon and hit a rock instead. Speaking of raccoons, that brings me to Gary. Gary's not just any raccoon. He's fast. He's smug. He's got a reputation in the forest for dumpster diving with style. And last week, that bastard winked at me. Do you know what that does to a man's self-esteem? When a literal trash panda winks at you like you're the punchline of some cosmic joke? Yeah, not great. So that morning, not exactly bursting out of bed ready to live my best life. The first sign of trouble didn't come from humans or bears or the usual forest annoyances. No, it came from squirrels. And squirrels don't whisper or talk quietly. They yell. They argue like married couples in public, loud, fast, and with zero shame. I was out gathering mushrooms, minding my own business, when I overheard two squirrels argument over an acorn. One of them blurted out something about big black drooly guy moving into the swamp. Now, I've been in the forest long enough to know When a squirrel says big and drooly, there's a 50% chance they mean a bear and a 50% chance they mean something much worse. The name eventually dropped Venom. Big, black, glossy, drools like a busted fire hydrant, eats everything, leaves a trail of destruction and slobber in his wake. You leave him alone. Doesn't matter, he'll still find you. And when he does, it's never because he needs sugar for a pie recipe. That's when I knew this wasn't just forest gossip. This was the start of a problem. I headed back to my cave. Time to prepare. The cave of necessity. Most people picture caves as damp, dark, and empty. Mine's got character. There's a hammock strung up in one corner, a shelf cluttered with stolen camping gear, a broken coffee maker that I swear has sentimental value, and the special stash, a carefully curated arsenal of survival essentials. In the special stash, I keep 2 rifles, one in a legendary wrestling match with a park ranger named Carl. Don't ask, 3 grenades he acquired at a sketchy yard sale, possibly illegal, possibly cursed, the Boomer Special, a slingshot made from 2 telephone poles, a bungee cord, and a ton of ambition. Snacks include 2 jars of peanut butter, 1 loaf of bread, 4 pickles, and a tactical poncho, bright yellow, don't judge, it was on sale. For atmosphere and morale, there's my Walkman loaded with a single cassette labeled War Jams, mostly 80s power ballads. I spent a solid hour trying on battle outfits. There was the ghillie suit suffocating, a raincoat sounded like a plastic bag, and briefly, 2 oven mitts taped to my arms, terrible for aiming. In the end, I went with my classic look, bare fur, a bandolier slung across my chest, and the kind of facial expression that says, I've made questionable life choices, but I'm committed now. The path to trouble, the road to Venom's rumored location, was anything but straightforward. First, I had to sneak past a flock of G's who have hated me since the Great Egg Incident of 2012. They hunked death threats and tried to peck me. Then, I had to climb over a fallen log the size of a city bus. I swear it was moving just to mess with me. Gary the raccoon showed up for the 3-mile escort. He didn't want to help, just to mess with me. Crossing a stream on a beaver dam, the beavers were not thrilled and demanded a toll in the form of stolen snacks. Halfway through, I stopped at my favorite berry bush. Just because I'm marching into potential doom doesn't mean I'm skipping snacks. Venom sighted. I spotted Venom long before he saw me. He was huge, glossy, hunched over, yanking something out of a tree. That something was a deer. Don't ask how the deer got there. This forest is weird. I ducked behind a log, pulled out my binoculars, and realized I'd grabbed my grandma's opera glasses instead. Ultra close up of Venom's left nostril. Full detail. I could count the nose hairs. They waved at me. I striking forward every step, careful. I was the wind. I was the shadow. I was. Snip. A pine cone. Loudest date pine cone in forest history. Venom's head whipped toward me. That grin spread, which in Venom language means, oh good, free lunch. The first shot, what followed was chaos, not planned chaos. I mean pure, unfiltered, bad decision chaos. Rifle, safety on, flashlight on. Spotlighted like an idiot. I tried to yell, freeze, but bit my tongue and it came out as, fuita. Pulled a grenade, tripped over my tail, landed on my back like an overturned turtle. Venom stopped to watch, maybe thinking this was performance art. I threw the grenade, bounced off a tree, landed in the swamp, fizzled, training grenade. Only smell, burned toast. I dove, peanut Boomer Special, loaded but jar fire, directed to Venom's face. Venom froze, licked. Now staring at me like I'm dessert. He ran. Cartoon run, legs spinning before the body caught up, dove into a hollow log. Too small, legs stuck out. Venom grabbed ankles. Yanked. I popped out like a cork. Landed in wildflowers. Accidentally set off a real grenade. Boom! Venom covered in petals. Looked like Miss Woodland Elegance 2025. We both froze. Then I started laughing. Venom made a wet, gurgly hiss. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a fight. This was a date. All right. So after that little with Venom, which mostly involved me face planting in wildflowers and turning him into Miss Woodland Elegance 2025, it was clear one thing. I needed to get serious, or at least look serious. Because if Venom thought I was a joke, he'd eat me for breakfast. And I'm not talking pancakes here. So back to the cave I went, limping slightly but proud. I mean, if you're going to be the forest's legendary cryptid, you gotta have some swag. I dusted off my special stash, that treasure trove of stolen camping gear, weapons, snacks, and questionable decisions. The arsenal let me puncture of the special stashy 2 rifles, both won in a legendary arm wrestling match with Carl, the park ranger who once wrestled a grizzly and lost. The rifles are beautiful, well-oiled, and terrifyingly heavy. 3 grenades, bought at a yard sale from a guy who looked like he was auditioning for a Bond villain role. I suspect they might be cursed, because one exploded of glitter and confetti when I accidentally dropped it. The Boomer Special, my pride enjoyed a slingshot jury rigged from 2 telephone poles, a bungee cord, and a whole lot of this might work somehow. I use it mostly for hurling jars of peanut butter or whatever else I can find. Snacks. 2 jars of peanut butter for fuel, not combat, 1 loaf of bread, 4 pickles, because who knows when you'll get a craving, and my tactical poncho, bright yellow, and yes, it clashes with everything, but it was on sale, and last but not least, the Walkman loaded with war jams. Mostly 80s power ballads that keep me motivated, or at least distracted from impending doom. Battle outfit try, and I spent a solid hour trying on battle outfits. Look, I'm not just a wild beast, I'm a fashion icon in my own right. First, the ghillie suit. I looked like a walking moss monster, which is fitting, but breathing was like inhaling through a wet sponge. Also, the squirrels kept trying to set up camp in the suit. Then came the raincoat, plastic noisy, and made me feel like a rejected extra from a bad 80s cop show. The Pi Sidira assistants. 2 oven mitts taped to my arms, great for blocking attacks, terrible for aiming rifles. I accidentally set off one of the grenades while trying to open a jar of peanut butter. Eventually, I ditched the costumes, bare fur bandolier, and my business face. If that face could talk, it'd probably say, "Help me!" Training. Sort of next up training. I practiced with the rifles. Spoiler alert, aiming is hard when your fingers are the size of small tree trunks. I shot at a target, mostly a tree, but close enough, and scared a family of owls into permanent relocation. Grenades. I tossed one, which bounced off a rock and landed in a patch of wildflowers. It fizzled, smelled like burned toast, and prompted a furious swarm of bees. The Boomer Special fired a peanut butter jar at a squirrel. He just stared at me, licked the jar, and ran off with it. So much for intimidation. Then was the potato cannon experiment. I thought it would be genius, but it exploded on the first test fire. There's now a suspicious crate in the side of my cave. Sorry, cave. And the mystery briefcase labeled, "Do not open, Curiosity 1. It exploded in a cloud of glitter and confetti. I'm pretty sure the squirrels are now organizing some kind of party in my honor. Gary's interference. Oh, and Gary the raccoon. He showed up at the worst times. He tried to steal my grenades, which led to a 3-mile chase through the forest involving a lot of slipping, sliding, and tripping over roots. I lost him by throwing a jar of pickles behind me. Raccoons love pickles, right? No. Well, he stopped to inspect it, giving me just enough time to escape. Mental prep between all this chaos. I plugged in my Walkman, cranked the volume on Eye of the Tiger, and attempted to psych myself up. It worked about 40% of the time. The other 60% I was humming off key and worrying about what kind of monster Venom really was. The plan, by the end of the day, I had a plan. Sort of. Mostly, I decided, whatever happens, I'm not going down without a fight. And maybe, just maybe, I'll keep a jar of peanut butter handy. All right, so after my stellar war prep, glitter explosions, potato cannon mishaps, and a chase with Gary the raccoon that left me feeling like I'd been through a blender, it was time for the real deal. The mission. The part where Bigfoot faces Venom in the swamp and hopefully doesn't become swamp snacks. I grabbed my rifles, slung on the bandolier, tucked the Boomer Special into my belt, and slung my bright yellow tactile poncho over my shoulder like I was headed to the forest's most awkward fashion show. This was it. The approach, nature's obstacle course, the path to Venom's swamp, was less a path and more a nightmare obstacle course. First up, the geese of eternal grudge. These weren't your ordinary geese. Oh no, these honkers have hated me since 2012 when, in a moment of extreme bad judgment, I accidentally sat on one of their eggs. Long story short, they've held a grudge, and now they patrol the forest entrance like feathered FBI agents. I tiptoed past their pond, trying to keep my paws light and quiet, but of course, a twig snapped underfoot. That was all it took. Suddenly, a cacophony of honks erupted like an angry brass band on steroids. I ducked behind a tree, heart pounding, as the geese formed a V-shaped dive bomb squadron, missed me by inches. I swear one goose gave me the dirtiest look. The fallen log of doom next. I had to get over a fallen log. Not just any log. This bad boy was the size of a city bus and slick with moss. I looked it over, debated whether to jump or climb, then went for the climb. Halfway up, my foot slipped on the moss and I slipped, arms flailing like I was auditioning for Bigfoot the acrobat. I grabbed a branch, swung wildly, and landed face first in a patch of nettles. Nettles sting, by the way, like 1,000 tiny bees setting up camp on your nose. I wiped my eyes, gave myself a mental pep talk, and continued onward. Nettles stung, nose be damned. The talling beavers, then came the beaver dam crossing. Now, beavers are notoriously territorial and, frankly, stingy with their resources. As I stepped onto the dam, a beaver popped up, eyes narrowed like I just tried to steal his secret nut stash. He held up a tiny sign that read tall, 1 jar of peanut butter. I sighed, peeled open one of my prized jars, and tossed it across the water. The beaver gave a satisfied nod, disappeared underwater, popped back up wearing what looked like a tiny captain's hat. I tiptoed across the dam, feeling more like a spy in a low-budget nature documentary than a fearsome cryptid warrior. Gary's comeback tour, and then the wild card. Gary, the smug raccoon who somehow always manages to find me, even when I want to be invisible. I heard rustling in the bushes, and sure enough, there he was, waddling along behind me with that sly grin. I tried to shake him off by taking a detour through a thicket, but Gary was persistent. He threw a pine cone at me. Not a pebble, not a rock, but a full-on pine cone hoed with squirrel-level precision. The pine cone incident now, this is where things went from sneaky mission to comedy of errors. I ducked behind a log, trying to steady my breath and focus. Slowly, I peeked out. Venom was there, hunched over, tearing something out of a tree. From the smell, it was probably dinner. I pulled out what I thought were binoculars to get a closer look. Turns out they were Grandma's opera glasses, not exactly designed for stealthy surveillance. I got an ultra close-up of Venom's left nostril. Yes, nostrils have hair. Who knew? They waved at me. I nearly screamed. Every step forward felt like tiptoeing on eggshells made of lava. Then, bam! A pine cone snapped under my foot. Venom's head whipped around, eyes narrowing. That grin spread across his face, a grin that clearly said, "Oh good, free lunch." The first clash, what happened next? Pure chaos. I tried to yell, freeze. But all that came out was a strangled fwee. Pulled out a grenade, tripped over my own tail, and landed on my back like a turtle flipped upside down. Venom just stared at me, probably wondering if this was some new kind of performance art. I threw the grenade, it bounced off a tree, rolled into the swamp, and fizzled. Training grenade. The only smell was burnt toast. I lunged for the boomer special, loaded a jar of peanut butter, and fired. Direct hit to Venom's face. Venom froze, licked the jar, and stared at me like I was dessert. Then he launched into a cartoonish sprint, legs spinning faster than his body could keep up. He dove into a hollow log, but it was too small. Venom grabbed his ankles and gave a tug. I popped out like a quaddle, landing in a patch of wildflowers. The exploding flower incident in the chaos, I accidentally set off a real grenade. Boom! Flowers everywhere! Venom was covered in pevic like Miss Woodland Elegance 2025. We both froze. Then I started laughing. Venom made a wet, gurgly hiss. That's when it hit me. This was a fight. This was a date. So, after that date, in the swamp that involved peanut butter, grenades, and a rather embarrassing flower explosion, you might think Venom and I would call a truce. Maybe share a root beer, swap horror stories about forest life, and chill. Nope, Venom wasn't having it. Oh no, if anything, that flower bomb just lit a fire under his big, glossy fur. The sabotage, I came back to my cave the next morning, or what was left of it. The coffee maker, smashed, broken beyond hope. The Walkman, switched with a tape of whale sounds. Seriously, whales. I tried playing it expecting battle jams, and instead got 5 minutes of sad, mournful whale calls. The jars of peanut butter half gone, and my bright yellow tactical poncho ruined. I'm pretty sure it was used as a napkin. I stood there, fur on end, jaw tight. Venom was sending a message, and it wasn't, let's be friends. It was, prepare for war, furball. Calling in the troops, the forest army I needed backup. Sure, I could take Venom solo. I'm Bigfoot after all. But sometimes you gotta admit when you need a little help. So I called in the forest army. Who's in the forest army, you ask? Glad you asked. Squirrels armed with tiny helmets and war cries that sound suspiciously like chipmunk squeaks. Barry the bear, the only bear in the forest with sunglasses and a surprisingly good poker face. Harold the heron, a long-legged bird with a crossbow strapped to his back. Mostly for intimidation, but he's surprisingly good at winging it. Gary the raccoon, smug as ever, but I threatened to withhold snacks if he didn't cooperate. Training the troops, training went about how you'd expect. The squirrels tried to organize a marching formation, but mostly got distracted by shiny things. Barry the bear practiced intimidation techniques, which mostly involved flexing and growling into a mirror. Harold the heron tried target practice with his crossbow, but kept accidentally shooting fish, which then jumped out of the water flapping and screaming, causing minor chaos. Gary was mostly interested in stealing snacks. The failed ambush attempts, armed with my ragtag army. I planned multiple ambushes on Venom's swamp lair. First attempt, hide in bushes and open fire. Result, I shot a tree, a squirrel dropped a grenade, and the whole place exploded in a shower of pickles. Pickles, for some reason, were Venom's weakness, or so I hoped. Second attempt night raid with silenced rifles. Result Barry sneezed mid-attack allergy season, giving us away. Venom responded by launching a salvo of swamp water grenades. I was drenched, sticky, and smelled like a pond. Third attempt type boomer special surprise attack. Result. I fired a peanut butter jar, but Gary ran in front of it to steal the jar. The grenade accidentally got tossed in Gary's direction, causing him to vanish in a cloud of smoke. No sign of him since. The forest becomes a war zone. Things escalated fast. Exploding mushrooms became a weapon of choice. The squirrels developed what they called nut bombs, acorns filled with spicy pepper powder. Venom retaliated by dropping slime bombs from trees. The beavers sabotaged the dam again, flooding part of my stash. And somewhere in all this madness, the geese started doing formation flybys with terrifying precision, bombing us with, well, you can imagine, the psychological warfare Venom sent me messages, not texts, not emails. Messages carved into tree trunks. One read, surrender furball. Furball, your peanut butter days are numbered. I responded by carving, bring it on, Drooly, into the largest oak. The turning point after particularly intense food fight, mostly involving explodings of pickles and mud pies. Venom sent a messenger. A giant bullfrog, wearing a tiny tuxedo. The message was simple. Meet me at the swamp clearing. 1-on-1. No tricks. I looked at my army, all battered, sticky, and exhausted. Then I looked at my reflection in a puddle, wild-eyed mud, caked, and clutching an empty peanut butter jar. It was time. So there I was, mud-caked, sticky, and clutching my last jar of peanut butter, staring down at the swamp clearing where Venom was waiting. Forest army, exhausted, battered, and questionable in their combat effectiveness. But this was it. No more food fights, no more exploding pickles, no more glitter grenades. Setting the stage, the clearing was like something out of an action movie. Dense trees, framing a muddy battlefield, waterlogged logs scattered about, and fog rolling in low. Venom stood at the center, massive and glossy, looking like a nightmare with teeth and claws. His drool sparkled ominously in the dim light. I adjusted my bandolier, loaded my rifles, and gave my tactical Poncha Brave tug. Opening moves, I fired first. Rifles' shots cracked through the swamp air, sending birds scattering and leaves flying. Venom responded with a roar that shook the trees and launched a barrage of slime bombs that splattered all over me, making me look like a walking Jackson Pollock painting. I ducked behind a log and lobbed a grenade. It bounced off a tree, spun wildly, then exploded, sending mud, water, and bits of rotten fruit everywhere. Venom laughed. Well, as much as a giant black goo monster can laugh. The flaming log rodeo suddenly. A flaming log broke loose from the trees behind me. It was barreling straight toward the swamp like some fiery rodeo bull. Instinct took over. I jumped on. I was riding that log like a rodeo champion, gripping tight as it careened over the mud and water. Venom chased, hissing and slapping slime bombs in my direction. I swerved, dodged, and let out a primal yell. Machine gun jammed somehow. Amidst the chaos, my rifles jammed. Of course, I fumbled with them, trying to clear the jams while Venom closed in. He called me Glossy Madrewface. I fired back Hairy Disaster. We traded insults faster than bullets. Karaoke break. Out of nowhere, my Walkman started blasting. I want to know what love is. Turns out, during the earlier sabotage, Venom swapped my tape. Instead of war jams, I got power ballads. Venom and I paused mid-fight, looked at each other, and started singing along. Well, I was trying. The forest joins in, the squirrels danced, the bears howled, and even the ghosts of Gary the raccoon showed up, wearing Venom's tooth as a necklace. The battle turned into a bizarre forest party, with grenades, replace moves, and mud pies flying in rhythm. The final blast, eventually, things settled down to one final blast. Venom and I faced off, weapons drawn, adrenaline pumping. The grenade I threw hit a tree and exploded in a shower of leaves and acorns. We both froze, covered in soot and leaves. Then, with a sigh, Venom extended a slimy claw. I shook it. Aftermath, I limped back to my cave, battered but victorious. Gary showed up, wearing Venom's tooth necklace, smirking. Venom knocked on my door with a 6-pack of root beer. Round 2, he asked. I sighed. Some mornings you regret being alive. Other mornings, you just might regret it a little less. So, the smoke cleared, the mud dried mostly, and the forest slowly stopped shaking like it was having a massive seizure. Venom and I, well, we'd survived the biggest brawl the woods had seen since the Great Pinecone Incident of '98. I was limping back to my cave, bandolier slung low, a little worse for wear but still standing. The sticky slime had dried in kind of gooey armor, probably not effective against bullets, but great for making new friends in the bug community. The surprise visitor, as I rounded the bend near my cave, I spotted a figure waiting by the entrance. It was Gary. Yeah, the raccoon who'd winked at me, tried to steal my grenades, and basically been the forest's biggest pain in my fur. But this time, Gary looked different. No smug grin. No mischievous sparkle in his eyes. just a serious raccoon holding a small, battered notebook. "I wrote this for you," he said, holding it out. Curious, I took it and flipped through. It was a detailed map of the forest, marked with secret paths, safe zones, and even little notes like "Beware of angry geese" and "Best spots to nap of being bothered." "Why?" I asked. Gary shrugged. "Let's just say I'm on your side now. Team Bigfoot." Venom's proposal. Before I could ask more, Venom's massive silhouette appeared in the clearing. He looked different, less threatening. Maybe it was the petals still stuck in his fur or the tired glint in his eyes. "Truce," he rumbled, holding out a slimy claw. I hesitated. After everything, a truce felt weird, but also kind of necessary. I shook his claw. "Truce." Building a better forest over the next few weeks, something unexpected happened. Venom, Gary, and I started working together. We patched up the beaver dam with some minor disagreements involving mud pies. We organized the squirrels to patrol the forest. This time, for real threats, not corn hoarding disputes. Gary became my official scout and snack supplier, mostly because I'm still too big to sneak anywhere unnoticed. Venom, he turned out to be a surprisingly good gardener. Who knew a giant, drooly black monster had a green thumb? The cave upgrade. With Venom's help, my cave got an upgrade. We installed a real coffee maker, no more broken one-ins, better shelves, and a sound system loaded with actual war jams. Gary helped with interior decorating, mostly by stealing shiny things and placing them strategically. I even got a new frying pan. No dents yet. Reflections on regret. One night, sitting by the fire with Venom and Gary, I thought about that morning when I first woke up and regretted being alive. Funny how things change. Sure, being Bigfoot still comes with its problems, fleas, freezing winters, and creepy TikTok videos, but now I've got friends. Crazy, messy, unpredictable friends, and sometimes that makes it all worth it. The final thought: so, if you ever wake up and instantly regret being alive, just remember this: maybe you're still you. Still fighting wild battles, still making a mess of things, but you're not alone. And that makes all the difference.